Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and checking your bank account. You pull out your phone, half asleep, expecting to see the same numbers you saw yesterday. But instead, you see zero. Not because you got hacked, not because you forgot to pay a bill, but because your government, in the middle of the night, decided that your money now belongs to them. They call it a temporary emergency measure. They promise it's for the greater good. They say you'll get it back. Eventually, maybe. You laugh. You think, that would never happen here. This is America. This is the 21st century. We have laws. We have rights. But ask the people of Cyprus in 2013 when the government woke them up on a Saturday morning and confiscated up to 47.5% of their bank deposits. Ask the people of India in 2016 when Prime Minister Modi demonetized 86% of the cash in circulation overnight, turning life savings into worthless paper. Ask the people of Lebanon right now, where banks have frozen accounts for years, and if you're lucky enough to withdraw anything, it's at a fraction of its real value. The hard truth? Your money in the bank isn't really yours. It's a database entry. It's a promise from an institution that's one keystroke, one policy decision, one crisis away from breaking that promise. But there's something they can't confiscate with a policy memo. There's something that doesn't require permission, doesn't need a password, and doesn't care what your government thinks. It's been money for 5,000 years, and it will be money when the last ATM shuts down. Today, we're not talking about silver as an investment. We're not here to argue whether it'll go to $50 or $100 an ounce. We're talking about silver as insurance, as a lifeboat, as the escape hatch when the financial Titanic starts taking on water. Buckle up. This is going to get real. Let's start with a simple question that most people never ask. What is money? You're probably thinking, it's the dollars in my wallet, the numbers in my bank account, my 401k balance. Wrong. Those aren't money. Those are claims on money. They're IOUs. They're casino chips. And the casino can change the rules whenever it wants. Here's what I mean. When you deposit $10,000 into a bank, what actually happens? You think the bank puts your cash in a vault with your name on it, right? Like a safe deposit box? Nope. The bank takes your $10,000 and immediately lends out $9,000 of it to someone else. They keep maybe $1,000 in reserve, and even that's generous. This is called fractional reserve banking, and it's the foundation of the modern financial system. So when you check your balance and it says $10,000, that's not cash sitting there. That's a promise. It's the bank saying, we owe you $10,000. But if everyone showed up tomorrow demanding their cash, the bank would collapse in about 20 minutes. Don't believe me? Look up bank run on YouTube. Watch what happened to Northern Rock in the UK in 2007. Watch the lines outside banks in Greece in 2015. Now let's go deeper. What are your stocks? Your bonds? Your retirement account? They're all digital entries, database records. If the system goes down, if the servers get wiped, if the institution holding your assets goes bankrupt, what do you actually own? You own a paper trail, a legal claim, a hope that a judge in a bankruptcy court will eventually give you pennies on the dollar. I'm not saying the system will collapse tomorrow. I'm saying the system is built on trust, and trust is the most fragile substance in the universe. In 2008, we saw trillion-dollar institutions vanish in a week. Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, gone. People who thought they had millions in safe accounts woke up with nothing. But here's the beautiful, brutal truth about physical silver. If you're holding a 1-ounce silver coin in your hand, you're not holding a promise. You're holding an asset that has been recognized as valuable for 5 millennia. The Romans paid their soldiers in silver. That's where the word salary comes from salt and argentum, silver. You can't hack silver. You can't freeze it. You can't dilute it with a printing press. When the casino chips stop working, silver isn't a claim on wealth. It is wealth. Okay, you're thinking, sure, but the government would never just take our money. That's authoritarian stuff. That's banana republic nonsense. Let me introduce you to Executive Order 6102. The date is April 5th, 1933. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, one of the most beloved presidents in American history, issues an executive order that makes it illegal for American citizens to own gold. Not gold jewelry, but gold coins, gold bullion, gold certificates. If you were caught hoarding more than $100 worth of gold, you faced a $10,000 fine and up to 10 years in prison. The government forced citizens to turn in their gold at the rate of $20.67 per ounce. And then, once the government had collected all the gold, they changed the price to $35 an ounce. Boom. Instant 70% devaluation of the dollar. The people who obeyed the law got robbed. The people who hid their gold in walls and buried it in backyards, they survived. You might say, well, that was the Great Depression. Times were different. Sure. Let's talk about 2013. Cyprus, a European Union member, a supposedly civilized democratic nation. The banks were collapsing. The government needed money fast. So they didn't ask for a bailout from taxpayers. They did a bail-in from depositors. If you had more than $100,000 in a Cypriot bank, the government took up to 47.5% of it. Just like that. One weekend, your life savings cut in half. The justification? Financial stability. The greater good. Systemic risk. All the buzzwords that mean we're stealing your money, but we're calling it policy. And it's not just tiny island nations. Look at India in 2016. Prime Minister Modi went on TV at 8 p.m. and announced that the 501,000 rupee notes, which made up 86% of the cash in circulation, would be worthless by midnight. You had a few weeks to turn them in at a bank, but the lines were 12 hours long. The banks ran out of new bills, and millions of people in rural areas who lived on cash had their wealth vaporized. The pattern is always the same: crisis, panic, emergency powers, confiscation, and the people who suffer are the ones who trusted the system. Here's the thing about silver. It's under the radar. Gold confiscation happened because gold was the monetary anchor. Gold backed the currency. Silver? Silver is industrial. It's in your phone, your solar panels, your medical equipment. Governments don't track it the way they track gold. It's the gray man of precious metals. It doesn't scream wealth, it whispers preparation. If the day comes when governments start locking down assets, freezing accounts, and demanding you turn in your wealth, silver is the one thing they'll have a hell of a time finding, let alone taking. Let's talk about inflation. Not the sanitized, boring definition from an economics textbook. Let's talk about the slow-motion theft that's been happening your entire life. In 1964, a U.S. quarter was made of 90% silver. If that quarter melted down, is worth about $4.50 today. But the quarter in your pocket right now, made of cheap copper-nickel sandwich metal, it's worth 25 cents. The same coin. The only difference is what it's made of. That's not the silver going up. That's the dollar collapsing. Here's a fun exercise. Go to an inflation calculator online. Type in $1,000 from the year 2000. See what it's worth today. The answer? About $550 in purchasing power. You lost half your money in 25 years just by holding cash. You didn't spend it recklessly. You didn't gamble it away. You just let it sit, and the Federal Reserve printed it into oblivion, and the pace is accelerating. During COVID, the U.S. government printed more money in 2 years than in the previous 2 centuries combined. We went from a $4 trillion Federal Reserve balance sheet to $9 trillion. Where did that money go? It sure as hell didn't go to you. It went to banks, corporations, and asset holders. The result? Your groceries cost twice as much. Your rent is up 40%. Your kids' college tuition is laughable. The dirty secret of modern economics is this. Inflation is a tax, but unlike income tax, you don't get to vote on it. You don't get a receipt. It just happens in the background while the TV tells you the economy is recovering. Now look at silver. Over the last 50 years, the price of silver has gone from $1.29 an ounce in 1974 to around $30 today. That's not silver getting more valuable. That's the dollar getting weaker. Silver is the constant. The dollar is the variable. But here's the kicker. Silver is still massively undervalued compared to the money supply. In 1980, silver hit $50 an ounce. Adjusted for inflation using real numbers, not the government's cooked CPI, that's over $500 an ounce in today's money. We're trading at $30. That's a 94% discount. When you buy silver, you're not speculating. You're opting out of the devaluation machine. Here's where it gets interesting. Silver isn't just a monetary metal, it's an industrial metal, and that creates a problem that gold doesn't have. Gold is mostly useless. I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. Gold is pretty, it doesn't corrode, it makes nice jewelry and sits in vaults. About 50% of gold demand is investment, another 40% is jewelry. Only about 10% is industrial. When the price of gold goes up, industries shrug and find substitutes. Silver? Totally different animal. Over 50% of silver demand is industrial. It's the best conductor of electricity. It's antimicrobial. It's essential in solar panels, EVs, 5G infrastructure, and medical devices. And here's the problem. When you use silver industrially, it's gone. It gets consumed in tiny amounts spread across billions of devices. You can't recycle the microscopic silver traces in your iPhone. It's economically impossible. Every year, we mine about 800 million ounces of silver. Every year, we consume about 1 billion ounces. That's a deficit of 200 million ounces. We're eating into above-ground stockpiles, and those stockpiles are running dry. In the 1950s, the U.S. government had a strategic silver reserve of over 3 billion ounces. Today, effectively zero. It's gone. Used up in industry, sold off to balance budgets. Meanwhile, demand is skyrocketing. The green energy transition requires silver. A single solar panel uses about 1 ounce of silver. The world is installing terawatts of solar capacity. Every electric vehicle uses twice as much silver as a gas car. 5G base stations, RFID chips, water purification, it's all silver intensive. The market hasn't priced this in yet because silver is traded like a commodity, not like the strategic resource it actually is. But there's going to be a moment, probably in the next 5 years, when industrial users and governments wake up and realize, oh shit, we're running out. When that happens, the price isn't going to politely rise. It's going to spike violently. And if you're trying to buy silver at that point, good luck. The premiums will be insane, the wait times will be months, and a lot of dealers will just be sold out. Let's talk about the big lie. The silver market is one of the most manipulated markets on planet Earth. How do I know? Because the banks admitted it and paid fines. In 2020, JP Morgan Chase was fined nearly $1 billion for manipulating precious metals markets. For years, their traders were spoofing, placing fake orders to manipulate prices down, then canceling them and profiting on the swing. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is admitted, prosecuted, settled fact. But the manipulation goes deeper. The COMEX, the commodities exchange where silver futures are traded, has a fascinating problem. At any given time, there are about 300 to 400 million ounces of silver traded in paper contracts. But the actual physical silver sitting in COMEX vaults? About 40 to 60 million ounces. Do the math. That's a leverage ratio of 6.1 or higher. For every ounce of real silver, there are 6 claims on it. This works fine as long as nobody asks for delivery. It's the same fractional reserve scam as banking. But what happens when people start standing for delivery? What happens when industrial users, countries, or big investors say, I don't want a piece of paper that says I own silver, I want the actual metal? We saw a preview in 2021 during the Reddit Wall Street Bets silver squeeze attempt. Within days, physical silver vanished from dealers. Premiums shot up 50%. The COMEX didn't default, but it got nervous, real nervous. Here's the escape hatch part. When you own physical silver, you're outside this paper game. You're not holding a contract. You're not exposed to counterparty risk. You're holding the real thing. When the music stops and the paper burns, the guy with the metal wins. And let's game out a scenario. I'm not saying this will happen. I'm saying it could happen. And smart people prepare for possibilities, not certainties. Scenario: a cyber attack takes down the banking system for a week. No ATMs, no credit cards, no Venmo. Cash still works, but the banks are closed, so you can't get cash. What do? If you're like 90% of Americans, you panic. You have maybe $200 in physical cash at home. That might buy you groceries for a few days if the stores are even open and accepting cash. But let's say you have 100 ounces of silver. Suddenly, you have options. You can trade an ounce of silver to your neighbor for a tank of gas. You can trade half an ounce for a week's worth of groceries. Silver is recognizable. It's divisible. It's universally valued. Gold is great, but a 1-ounce gold coin is worth $2,700. That's not useful for small transactions. You can't break off a chunk of gold to buy eggs. But silver? A 1-ounce round is about $30. You can trade one for a meaningful amount of goods without overpaying. Historically, in every hyperinflationary collapse, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Weimar Germany, the people who survived were the ones who had hard assets. The people with paper wealth got destroyed. The people with gold and silver could eat. You don't buy silver hoping your country collapses. You buy silver so that if it does, you're not the one begging on the street. Here's something nobody talks about. Owning physical silver is psychologically liberating. When your entire net worth is in a bank account, a 401k, and stocks, you're tied to the system. You're dependent. You check your portfolio every day. You worry about the Fed. You panic when the market drops. You're a passenger on a plane you don't control. But when you hold silver, you're sovereign. It doesn't matter what the stock market does. It doesn't matter if your bank has a liquidity crisis. You have wealth that exists outside the system. I'm not saying put 100% of your money into silver. That would be stupid. But 10%, 20%? That's not radical. That's prudent. And here's the beautiful part. Silver doesn't require you to be right about timing. You don't need to predict the crash. You just need to be prepared for it. If the crash never comes, great. You have a chunk of wealth that's held its value for 5,000 years. If the crash does come, you're the guy who saw it coming. Silver isn't flashy. It doesn't moon on Twitter. It doesn't have a celebrity spokesperson. It's not going to make you rich overnight. But silver is the quiet rebellion. It's opting out. It's saying, I don't trust your system. I don't trust your promises. I'm going to hold something real. The wealthy have known this for centuries. Why do you think central banks hold gold? Why do the ultra-rich have vaults in Switzerland? Because they know that when the chips are down, paper is worthless. You don't need to be rich to own silver. A single ounce costs less than a dinner out. Stack a few ounces a month. In 5 years, you'll have a foundation that can't be frozen, confiscated, or inflated away. Silver isn't an investment. It's an insurance policy. It's an escape hatch. And in a world where governments are printing trillions, banks are failing, and the system is held together by duct tape and hope, having an escape hatch isn't paranoid. It's rational. Thanks for watching. If this video made you think, hit that like button. If you want more deep dives into the financial system they don't want you to understand, subscribe. And tell me in the comments, do you own physical silver? If not, what's stopping you? I read every single one. Stay sovereign, stay prepared. I'll see you in the next one.